spiral, it'll look like
belly button up looks like the 8-hole down.
You're gonna post this, right, Julianne?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can share it. Yeah.
so. Yeah, you can.
It could go viral.
I'll have to delete that what I just said and
No,
start
it goes viral. Spiral.
All right. So I wedged it as best as I can. I'm counting 5. Pound it down first. And now I'm going to get rid of the belly button. So if you do this for long enough, it will center itself just by whacking it, which is something that Japanese do. So, don't spin too fast. Take your time to get it settled. And one of the things that I find probably the most challenging about working with larger amounts is that you have to use the bat, and they never fit. So you'll have all kinds of things happening just because the bats wobble and they're warped. So lower it down nice and easy, take your time, again stopping at the bottom. And I'll cone it up one more time, just a little bit, and again, holding it here at the base. And then bring it down. And now at this point, before I lower it down all the way, I'll start thinking about the footprint, which will then decide what shape of bowl you make. So like for a general purpose bowl would be probably about this, but you said you wanted it to be
I want to have a fruit bowl, so it's
right,
like,
like
to fit like around big things. Yeah,
so then
wide
this
and
has
open.
to go down. So I'll push this down a little wider. And you can change your hands so that you're compressing that base. And here's the one place where you want a little bit of an undercut so you can reach the clay from below after you've opened it. And now I'll start pushing my opening in. So I'll just find the center. And I find that the easiest way for the wider, more open pieces is to use the wrist bone. So you're going to use this part of your wrist. And you're going to sink it in until you're deep enough, and then widen this out. So you're really creating this wide open,
Like with the plates.
like with the plates, and then put a little curve to it, compress it.
How much clay do you have at the bottom? Do you have to
About
leave a little
half
more?
an inch.
Half an inch.
Yeah, about a half an inch minimum for this size. And now if you feel like you got a little bit off-centered, which often happens with the bats, I'm going to pinch it and compress it at the top. So I'm going to hold it in between my hands like so. And you can pull this over and up for now. this is nicely compressed and centered. And then, even with the wider bowls, the lift always begins from the center. So you're going to follow the curve until you come to that point where it changes from that wider open, more open, into the tighter, more upright, and first up. So you're bringing all this clay from below into the wall and leave a little extra for the rim.
Why do you leave a little extra for him?
Because it's going to stretch out. Because when you widen it, it's going to thin out. So from the center, follow, come to this point where it changes, and I'm going to squeeze it out into my outside hand, and my inside hand does not let the outside hand push the clay back in. So first height. And you can already, at this point, begin to compress the rim so that it doesn't start cracking later. So get all that goo out. And one of the things that, I don't know if you can see it, is that this line goes all the way down without that little flare.
Right.
So if you start to get that flare,
Yeah.
that means you are not lifting at the bottom where you're pushing in one or the other. So one more time from the center. I'm compressing this at the same time. That inside hand pushes it out into the outside hand. And inside hand decides how far you're opening it at this point. And then if you feel like you have done your lifting, clean this out a little so that you, again, that you have that line exactly. And now I can start shaping it. So you can see how this is kind of still pretty flat on the bottom. So I'm going to take the rib and round this up a little.
So are you pressing? Like,
Right, I'm moving the clay out. from
You're
this-
moving the clay
yeah.
out.
So I'm just quite forcefully, actually. There's probably about 20 pounds of weight on my arm right now. To create this curve. And then I usually do the outside first by drying it into the rib. As I'm widening this.
Why the outside first? Just do.
Because I feel like this point I still have control over it. And then later, I don't have to touch it. Now all the rest of the work is from the inside only. So again, making sure this is centered and compressed, and then you can use the rib. So I'm going to first gently push this out a little, and then connect these two lines.
Oh my god. tried to get rid of that little in between.
The bump.
It was not working.
So there are two reasons why it may not have worked.
Mhm.
If you had that little extra clay down here,
Yeah.
and then you pushed it out
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, I did.
Right, because it's a little bit denser here. So
Yeah.
you push here first.
Yeah, I did that.
And then you keep pushing. You come here where it's a little bit softer.
Yeah, and then I was
just go,
thinking.
"Ooh."
Yeah, and then
Right.
it was like, yeah.
Exactly. So then it
Yeah.
just, that's why you begin from the top.
I see. Okay, got it. Alright.
So you gently follow, follow, follow,
That's a good
follow.
It is.
All the way in. And then last but not least, the rim.
Okay.
So and then if you wanted to, you could turn this out a little. Just to give it a little bit of a
Right.
kind of invitation. I feel like if they are straight or even sometimes even if they're turned in a little bit, they're sort of not inviting you to be with them. Like they're like, I'm holding on to my stuff. You go away. So I find it like food mixing bowls and salad bowls are always nicer if they have a little outward invitation. And that's it. We're all done.
Yay!
Maybe if you're
That's exactly
Are you going to wire cut it now?
Yes. So before you
I'm gonna
take,
continue to record.
before you go away, make sure you do wire. No water.
No water?
No
No
water.
water, really?
Because you're not taking it off.
Right, because you're not taking it off. So if you put water, the water will just reseal the base back on, and then
Okay.
it will be,
Crack.
it would
I see.
crack, and not only, but it'll never come off. So without rewiring it later. So I'm slowly pulling it through. And one way to see if your bottom is thick or thin enough, if you see the wire go across,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
It's too thin.
it's too thin.
Ah,
Right.
okay.
Now we can
All done. Beautiful. And then the other thing that I find that often people get confused with is that your bottom, the fat that you're making it on, only needs to be as wide as your foot. Not as wide as
Right as
your
the
rim.
bulb.
Right. Because I see people struggling with these
Yeah.
giant bats.
Mhm.
And then there's like a footprint like this underneath it.
Mhm.
And the,
Can I touch it here?
of course you can touch it.
Because that is always the. I mean, that is what happens there. It's just sort of like when you in the bottom of
Right
it.
now you have your hand.
Yeah, I do.